I want to start with the president's financial issues. So, they convicted him in a civil case of inflating his assets. Even though no banks complained, no insurers complained, no construction company has complained, no individual has complained. This is a targeting of a business person because of his political views. There was no problem when he was hosting The Apprentice. There was no problem when he owned the USFL team. There was no problem when he tried to buy the Buffalo Bills. There was no problem when he was building building after building. There was no problem when Mike Bloomberg, mayor, said, please buy that golf course in the Bronx and refurbish it, put the Trump name on it, and he did. No problem when he was refurbishing the Woolman Rink in the 80s. There's a huge problem because he became president of the United States. And Letitia James is trying to make a name for herself. And to her credit, probably honestly disdains him. So yesterday it became clear that there was only 30 bond companies in the country that could actually have the wherewithal, the financial wherewithal, to be able to lend the president this money. And these 30 companies basically said, listen, if you have $1 billion, I'll give you $450 million, and you'll have to pay me $20 million. To me, as a guy that's not a billionaire, according to reports, I haven't checked my passbook savings account, it's way over my head in terms of big business, but not over the ramifications. If she does not post the $450 million asset bond, then they have a right to take one of his properties, whether it's 40 Wall Street, whether Westchester Country Club, the New Jersey Country Club, whether it's Mar-a-Lago, the Trump Tower. Letitia James can go and grab it. There are huge problems with that. One of the problems is you grab it while he's appealing the case, which many experts say he absolutely can win, and they certainly inflated the penalty. They could go sell his asset and then go, okay, the appeals court overturned the civil judgment. Sorry, sold your tower. Sorry, we flipped your golf course. You've lost money on it, let alone having a monitor over him. Now, there's a monitor looking over Trump business right now. So you can't even say that there's going to be a problem or there's going to be hidden assets. You got a monitor there. He put together a 5,000-page petition to a 5-member appeals court in order to say, look at the precedent here of an appeals court knocking down the amount somebody would need in bond as they wait for appeal. My hope is there is some semblance of equity and honesty in the New York court system for someone that's a Republican that has no plaintiff except for being targeted for political purposes. They don't like the size of his penthouse. They don't like how he assessed certain property. They thought he overemphasized certain things. Banks don't have a problem with it. Realtors don't have a problem with it. Insurers don't have a problem with it. They had a problem with it. They thought they could target him. They found him guilty before the judge made his final judgment. And in the end, it was as bad as it could be. $350 million. They added some interest and some other things, ends up to $450 million. The real estate that could be up for docket, unless he can get this down in the next 5 days, 40 Wall Street, the Trump International Hotel and Tower, Trump Park Avenue, obviously, 1290 Avenue of the Americas, Penthouse, Triplex, Tripleplex, and Trump Tower at and that's 724 Fifth Avenue. That's the one everybody goes to. That's where he really works out of. Now he works out of Mar-a-Lago all the time until he shifts to New Jersey when it gets too hot there. So I just think it's terrible. And I think politically this actually helps him. No Democrat's going to want him. I get it. The independents undecided, the Republicans on the side saying, okay, you got to be kidding me. This is so over the top. The legal judgment was over the top, but as you wait for appeal, $450 million as you wait for appeal, you got to be kidding. Here's Ryan Goodman on CNN. He's a legal analyst. Cut 15.
Then Letitia James seizes his property, puts liens on all of his assets, bank accounts, and then as Eric said, that is not restricted to New York. So she probably at this point understands where he has different assets in Florida, Mar-a-Lago, and elsewhere.
And what does that mean? He can't go in them, or people can't go? What does that mean?
It does mean that he would not be able to. It would be fought out in some part in the courts, but for that period of time, it really becomes unusable. And how does he get any additional business going when these are under foreclosure or being seized by the court?
So that's a little of the mechanics of it. Now, here's the fairness of it. Jonathan Turley, cut 16.
This is obviously a situation where you don't have any good options, including getting the bond itself. And remember, if you get the bond, you still lose considerable amount of money on the cost of the bond. And this creates a sort of perverse incentive for judges like this one, who comes up with this astronomical, in my view, ridiculous level of
in everybody's
damages.
view.
Basically, his position is, in order to get any other judge to look at what I've done to you, you've got to come up with basically $500 million just to appeal. It's like a judge saying, I'm going to take your house away, but you can appeal my decision. You just have to sell your house in order to do it.
So that's interesting. Listen, we've never been down this road before. And I'm going to talk more about this. But politically, this does not hurt the president because it's not something he did. If he did something, put it up for risk, went to buy a Saudi hotel and put Mar-a-Lago up, and all of a sudden the Saudi hotel project ended up using cheap labor and got caught in scandal, and they got to go seize the property, and that's a problem. This is all about being targeted. This is the reason why he won the primary. The fact that he was on trial. Then he loses the trial. Before he starts, just the way the nature of this civil trial goes, and they do all the testifying over weeks, and they just give him the maximum penalty imaginable. Now, they did say he's got to sell all his New York assets. He petitioned that, and they got rid of that. So he can do business in New York. So that was changed. And I would love for ultimately this whole thing to be flipped, and we'll see what happens.